Welcome to the track, friends. This is Joe, Global Racing HO Scale Custom and Performance Track Update. First, I would like to say that I am no expert, no shape or form, in putting together a routed track. But, there's always a but, I am a genius in my own mind. Some of you out there probably feel the same thing about yourselves. I am an expert in the construction field in just about every phase in the construction field, and I am a hell of a good auto mechanic and other things. I can pretty much fix almost anything, but I'm not an electronic genius, if you know what I mean, when it comes to electronics. But I do know electrical very well. So, the update on the track. Now, this track is installed and it's not coming back up. It is installed. I'm going to get where it's at. It's not finished, but the track itself is not coming back up except for 3 pieces. I can't get the other third finger up, except for 3 pieces, which will be swapping out between 2 different layouts. All right, so what I did, I know a lot of people out there know a hell of a lot more than I do when it comes to this routed track. You can just install the screws by just using a screw gun and screwing them in. I don't believe in that. All the screw holes are countersunk. Every one. If you're off a smidge, the track's going to shift. But you can just do it that way, but I did not do it that way. Not just no, but hell no, I did not. I used this doohickey. So when I put the track down, some advice from Dan at Viper Racing said, do the ends at the seams first with the screws. And I did do that. I put the whole track down. I screwed it down only where the seams meet each piece of track. Prior to screwing it down, I used this little beauty right here. It's a plunger on the end. And it's meant for countersunk holes. You can get different sizes of these. This is meant to center up a countersunk hole for when you put a screw in it. To pre-drill a pilot hole first. This will center the screw hole up in the center instead of being off. You put this into the countersunk hole, drill, you don't have to go on high speed, and push down, and as you push down, the plunger goes up, and the drill bit comes out and drills your pilot hole. I only started the pilot holes. I didn't go full depth. I only kissed them some to get them going where they're centered up. This tool is handy dandy. Examples where this tool gets used. Anywhere you have an object that's countersunk and you want to mount to something else and you want that screw centered up, you want to use this. Where you don't want the object that has a countersunk hole to walk the dog in any direction because you did not get the screw in dead center. That's where this tool works. For example, on your doors of your house, the door hinges where they meet the jamb or they meet the door, or the door striker plates, or the plunger mechanism on the edge of your door. If you see 2 screws on the ends of that plunger mechanism, you use this when installing all of those goodies and beyond to make sure that screw is dead center instead of being off. Because if it's off, even if the object, say like the plunger, is in a mortise, that screw will go in and it'll be crooked. And it'll look like crap. We don't want crap. So this is what I used for all the holes on the track. Every one, all 120 holes for the screws. The screws of choice I used 120. I had to buy another box just to get 20 more. Here they are. Amazon. I think they're $8 and something for 100. I can't even see it. It's number 6, I believe. 3/4 inch Torx bit. It's got a Torx head instead of a Phillips screw. Driver will slip a lot easier than a Torx head. So that is what I used. A Torx head, and took 120 of them. So when you're screwing these babies in to the track down to the layout, that thing's not going to slip off and gouge your track up. I highly suggest you put all the screws in by hand, the old-fashioned way. I know the screw gun's a lot easier and quicker, but you can control the torque much better. That's just me. That's my opinion. This bit is not sliding out of this screw, where if it was a Phillips, you start doing that, that thing's going to pop out. I had to pull that to get it out. Torx head screws, my friends. All right, so enough of that baloney. So what I did was I had to track down where all connections on the edges were screwed down, all of them. Whole layout. So then what I did was, on all your wire drops, your taps, and I have 18 of them. That includes the holes for the timing system. I guess they're like a photo. I don't know what the hell they are, but they go on the track. Each lane has one under the light bar over there, light bridge. That includes that, I believe, 18. I think that includes that. I may be wrong. 18 times 4. You can do the mathematics. That's how many doohickeys will go through the track. So what I did after the track was laid down with the ends screwed together, not the other screws, I took a pick, sorry about that, a pointy pick, and I went to each hole and I put it in the hole and pushed down a decent amount of pressure. Now look, you don't have to be Superman, Hercules. You just want to get a nice kiss on that, a nice pucker, so you can tell where to drill at. All right, so I did that. Then I started taking sections of track up. For example, I took this section and this section at the same time, slid them over to the side. I went to all the spots I needed to drill through, and I made sure it was clear as day where I had to drill. If the mark needed to be punched a little more, because when you drill, you're going to get sawdust. You got to move the sawdust away to find the second hole. And here's why I had to do it that way compared to you if you want to just drill one hole. If you prefer to drill one hole, you can use a spade bit like this. Drills a pretty big diameter hole. Some guys recommend this. I didn't want to do that. And what you would do is when the track is removed, between both holes for each lane, you would go in there with the spade bit and you would drill that hole. So basically you would be drilling a large hole to drop your wires through each run. So you would have 4 large holes for each drop section for the one piece of track. Now, I didn't want to do that. I'm kind of particular. So I didn't use a spade bit. So what I did is I took a drill bit, roughly 3 times the size of the wire, and a long bit. This is roughly 3 times the size of the drop wires. that will be going through the track that you'll be soldering down for your connections. And I drilled each hole with this. 18 times 4. That's how many holes I drilled. Whatever the heck that number is. If you want to mathematically figure it out, I drilled each hole. So instead of 4 holes with the large spade bit, I drilled smaller holes for each drop. So I did all that, and I did that to each section as I took them up, if that makes sense. So like I said, I took these 2 up. So this one had here, and that section here had some over there I did do. I did those, and when you drill in the wood, you're going to get a pucker up on the wood. It's going to puff up like most of the time. So what I did was, you could use a sanding block, sand it smooth. Wherever you drill for your wire taps, you need to make sure that pucker up, if that wood puckers up, you get rid of that, because when you take your track to bolt it down, you get the picture. So I used a 5-in-1 tool like this, and I went to that area and pushed down on it and scraped. Smooth. So the drill marks, the holes I drilled that had to pucker up from the wood, splintering, and you get the picture if you ever drilled wood. Smooth. Vacuum it all up. I put these 2 sections of track back down and line them up with the track I was going to take up. Line it up and put the end screws back in. And then I took a piece of the wire, and every one of them, bam, bam, bam. Every one of them, I didn't have to make no adjustments on any holes. They all go through perfect. More time consuming my way than if you just use the spade bit and drill 4 big holes, large holes, giant ones, instead of, you get the picture. All right, I did that. I did sections of the track. I might have gone down 1, 2, 3, like four pieces of track. And as I got those 4 done, I would come back up to the first 2. And now also, I pre-drilled all of the remainder holes after I installed the track the first time, where I screwed the ends down where they meet the other tracks. I did drill all those other holes with the handy dandy tool. That way, when I did take up that track, I had to vacuum once. So after I did a couple sections, I'd go back to 2 of them and put all of the screws in to that section of track. I hope this makes sense. I hope I didn't forget anything. That's what I did. And it's all completed. I'm doing all my soldering. I'm doing all the drops, and I'm soldering them on the table. You can do them sitting at a table or at a platform and do them without being anchored down to the table, your track sections. But I don't want to do that. I can't see it. There's no sense in that. And I can do all the soldering now this way. And I have a lot of joints to solder. The only thing I do have to do is swap out the sections of track to make the other layout, so I can pre-drill those holes and get all that set up so that I'll be able to swap back and forth. Now, on those sections that come out, you can use quick disconnect plugs, where male and female, and the plugs will have to have 8 connections on each side, because you got 8 wires. So you can use quick disconnects on those sections. And those sections, I would have to drill larger holes so the quick disconnect can go through the table. You get the picture. What else? Oh, okay, this is pretty important. Now, I noticed when I was doing my track that the dog biscuits, dog bones, Do not put them in and think everything's going to line up where your guide pin goes in. This can shift a pinch on either way to make sure that when your car is going through the seam, that it is a smooth transition. Smooth transition. You need that. I have one that's off a pinch, and all I'm going to do is take a piece of sandpaper and go into the groove at the seam and give it a little kiss in there. One is a pinch off. Another thing, elevation of the joints where the track meets. I have probably on my layout, let's see, 1, 2, 3, I think 4 or 5 that you may need to put something under the track. Not much. Now, I seen this at Dan the Man, the professor of Viper Racing, back in the archives, when he was showing you how to put together a routed track. You can use a piece of paper. So, say you have both of these screwed down. One is a pinch off. You can just feel a little tad. You can loosen the screw a pinch, and it may take that out without doing much. But if you have one you need to put a piece of paper under, what you will do, you will take yourself a piece of paper, like this, say. This is what I've done. This is what I did. Like this. Fold it over. If you need one fold, just say you need one fold. Like that. Which you're actually getting two because it's doubled. Put it down this way. Pick up that piece of section of track a little bit. Scoot this underneath of it. This is the one that needs lifted up, say. Scoot it underneath. Place it up against this track. And then screw the track down. You get the picture. Do that. And if you have to double it again, you just double it again. Like that, And that'll lift that piece of section of track up. Screw it down and only screw the track. You don't have to go Hercules on screwing the track down. But you can adjust the screws a smidge to adjust any problems. I did have one piece of track for some reason was a little goofy in the middle section. So I cut a piece of paper, more narrow, to only go under the center section where I needed it to go. I did have one section on the track that I did have to do that. That's that. What else? I'm thinking. These are my experiences. Like I said, I am no professional by no means at all on a routed track, putting it together. Oh, now Willie Boy over at Musgrave Racing, Idaho Kid, where the holes are drilled for all your drops, your wire connections, he has the plastic, the colored, I guess it's like a colored plastic or rubber, already taken away at that sections where you have to solder your drops in, which is terrific. But if you scoot your car around, you notice, I had this right in this section, that you're scooting and it feels like you hit something there and you're not sure what it is. The groove is fine that the guide pin rides in, but you just can't. You're like, what the heck is that? That piece of plastic may be popped up just a tiny bit, and you just might have to push that down with your fingernail or a small flat screwdriver. I only had one or two areas, a little tiny bit, it was just puckered up. I ran across that. Otherwise, that's it. I hope all this makes sense. I'm going to say that again. That's it. I mean, I can't wait to get this up and going, and I'm taking my time. Next is to solder all of the drops. All of them. So, Willie sent me information on the solder he uses. I could not get that solder, but I got solder that is the same formula, whatever. These numbers right here are important from what Willie Boy told me. These numbers right here. So this is the solder I'm using. It is a very fine solder. It's only 0.6 millimeters. Very fine, and it is a low heat solder. Doesn't require an extreme amount of heat. That's the solder I'm using. Very, 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 very fine solder. And the rosin paste flux, Amazon, this is what I'm using. And that's it. So I'm not sure if tomorrow I will start soldering or if it will be Thursday. I'm not too sure about that yet. I will not have this all soldered in one day. That's a lot of joints. I don't want to get careless. But, friends, that's it for this video. I know it's a little long, but I gave you my update and my thoughts on putting down a rounded track. And hey, guys out there know a hell of a lot more than I know. And I'm not saying I know that for a fact, however I want to say it. But I'm doing the best I can do. And with my knowledge, I'm trying to do a little bit my way. And I really believe this tool right here you put in your drill is a real helper. With that said, friends, until next time.